Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TFConnect 2020. I'm assuming you've not gone anywhere. Assuming you're just sat in chat waiting for the epic to happen. And lo and behold, you waited long enough. We have got with us one of the, I'm assuming, many representatives of Special Effects. He goes by the name of Mark Saville. He's in our chat at the moment as Sav. So if you see his name flashing up, that's what it is. I'm possibly going to refer to you as a series of letters just coming out of my mind. Mop, Sav, Bop, anything will come to the fore. No, I'm gonna try and call you Mark, just for the novelty of it. I'm sure you don't get this level of respect at work. I'm sure it's much lower than this. Mark, welcome to the stream.
It's an honour. It's an absolute honour. I've just been watching those last matches. Absolutely superb. No, thanks so much for asking me on it. And just watching that total go up and the stretch goals, it's just been brilliant. And I was looking at the video of Zapti doing his hair. I was absolutely crying with laughter. I shouldn't. Well, with sympathetic laughter, but.
That was possibly the weirdest interview I've done in my life. Talking to one person while somebody else in the background shaves all their hair off. Look, it's not just about you and me. We've got a couple of guests with us at the moment as well. Day from the TFConnect thing. The TFConnect thing. My goodness me! I'm doing this sober as well. This is me sober. Day, welcome to the stream.
Hi.
Hi there.
And we also have with us the beautiful man who goes by the name of Lucky. Welcome back to the stream, Lucky.
Beautiful. Oh, so kind.
We've also got a bit Chetty. Oh, Chetty's left. Okay, fair enough. I think Chetty was here just to make sure everything goes smoothly. And now that he's left, it will. Mark, Special Effects. You've been there long?
Yeah, quite a few years now. Actually, so many I can't remember. But it's when I joined, there was about 6 people, and now we're up to about nearly 30 now, which is so a period of about 7 years, 10 years. Yeah, long time. It's been just an unbelievable experience watching the charity grow.
I was going to ask you, what do you know about Special Effect? Because your title doesn't really sort of throw much optimism on the possibility that you know inside out. But 7 years, presumably, that's a good enough chance to see at least touch on every aspect of what Special Effect does.
Well, it's weird because if I just sort of explain a bit more about how it all began, really. I mean, essentially, all the money you've raised and the community's raised over these 3 days is just fantastic, and it's all going to be going towards helping people to experience a better quality of life, and it's all the more welcome and all the more needed because we don't charge for anything we do, it's help we do. So it's just and especially during these can I use the word unprecedented times again?
I think that's a massive understatement, but you're welcome to use it. Yep.
Unprecedented bingo. But it all started 10, 13 years ago now with our CEO, Dr. Mick Donegan. I used to work with him, actually. It was a charity we used to help very severely disabled young people. If you think Stephen Hawking, that kind of thing, within education, within school settings, and they, these kids couldn't speak and they couldn't really learn very well, so they'd come in and Dr. Mick and the team would help them to learn and to communicate within school settings. But just about every time, the parents would say, "Well, that's brilliant. My child can now communicate and learn in school. What are they going to do in the evenings? How are they going to make friends at the weekends? What are they going to do in the holidays? They can't run like any other their friends. They can't jump. Can you help us?" And that's why he started the charity.
It does seem like when you say it, and even when you think about it, it's the most obvious thing in the world. Like the opportunity to be part of like the normal crowd. To hang out after school and to play whatever video games or to just be a normal kid. That's until it was realized that was a thing. It doesn't seem like the sort of thing like the NHS have on a priority list. Like, sure, make people better. Sure, make people have a better quality of life. But letting them play games, why? So I'm so glad that this exists, and it's so glad that it's something that you guys thought about and decided to focus on.
I mean, it's strange, isn't it? It isn't the first thing you think about when you think of sort of first level medical care, but if you stand back and look at it, it's actually fundamental to quality of life. I think just the rights to be able to play, I think is really important. And you were mentioning there, you touched on the fact that just being normal and having banter with your friends,
Mm.
just being a normal teenager. I think these days, with games the way they are, and with the chat the way it is, it's just to be able to let people access that kind of stuff is so important. A great example is we helped a guy. We've got a video on the site actually called Aaron, who's got muscular dystrophy, I think, and he's a teenager, and he's just an unbelievable lad, lovely guy. He can play Cuphead, brilliant actually, but we helped him to play with his feet and tiny movements of his fingers, and he would be able to get back online with his friends again. And his mum was telling me sort of the following week that it's just changed his life, because now he's one of the gang again, and he's joining in the banter online, and it's just completely changed his life totally. And it's and to be able to sort of provide that, and for you guys to be able to give us the money to be able to provide that service is just fantastic.
It is such a strange thing. Like I mean, I can't play Cuphead to save my life, to be perfectly honest. So the fact that anyone else even has a chance at it, but then playing with their feet and destroying whatever score I could manage to get is actually it's humbling. But yet you're on the nose. When I think of the time that I spent at school, if I wasn't able to talk about whatever TV show people were watching, if I wasn't able to talk about whatever game people are playing, I would just be not necessarily ostracized, but it would
Mm.
make me it would make me a social pariah. It would make me very difficult to ever feel like I belonged anywhere.
Yeah, I it's the do you know what? It's the details that matter as well.
Mm.
That he was sorry, his mum was saying that in the playground, because he's in a wheelchair, he's always got an adult helper assistant with him, so
Yep.
he can't sort of say the sort of things he wants to say to his mates. But put him in his own room at home with a gaming rig on and his gaming headsets. He really can just be like his friends. It's a real release. And so it's all these little benefits that we, even as a team, are finding out more and more, every day.
I fear that you're creating opportunities for generating new toxic gamers. So, well done for that. Congratulations.
One of the first people we helped was a young lad. He wanted to. His dad approached us. Actually, he wanted to play FIFA. He has cerebral palsy, so our occupational therapist went over to his house and looked at what skills he could, what abilities he had, and they rigged up a series of switches that he could actually use with his hands. Buttons he could hit because he couldn't use a normal keyboard or controller. And we got him playing FIFA. I think it was in one button mode or two button mode or something like that. And that was great. And I remember being in the office about 2 weeks later, and his dad rang up, and he was really furious. He said, "Oh, my son's just beaten me." That wasn't the point. We're like punching
Genius.
the air and going, yes, because it's not just about playing. It's about playing and being competitive. And we just love it when people really just stuff their parents or their siblings or their friends. Another guy who we also helped FIFA. He had muscular dystrophy, and he was using tiny little finger movements. We set him up with a very complex system to play FIFA, custom system,
Mm.
and uh, and he, for the first time in 15 years, he took on his brother and he beat him 6-0. And you can't put a price on that. You really cannot put a price on it. It's just superb.
Value and humiliation. Excellent. I love it.
Oh yeah. And I suppose I should say a bit more about how we do all this. Really, what we
Yeah,
do with your
absolutely.
money. Yeah.
I mean, I've been dwelling on your blog for such a long time, looking at all the awesome things you do. Please, by all means, go at it.
No, it's fine. The money that the community has raised, as I say, it's going to go a long way, because in normal times, what we do, we have a team of about so 7 or 8 therapists who will go round the country within the UK, visiting people who've got very severe disabilities who want to play a game, and they'll come to the gamers will have come to us and said, look, I'd like to play this particular game, but I can't because of XYZ. Can
Yep.
you help? So our therapists will go out, and they won't just look at, whether people can move their hands or their thumbs or their fingers or whatever. They'll look at the whole lot. I went out with them on a visit to help somebody who wanted to play, who was in a wheelchair, and the therapists walk in. And the first thing they do was say, "Oh, is that a brand new powered wheelchair you've got? Oh, I see. I see you've got a new pair of glasses. Oh, and have you changed? Oh, is that a new caring assistant you've got with you setting up your? All these things matter
Hmm.
because if they got the wrong glasses, if they got an assistant who doesn't know, isn't familiar with the setup, if they've got a powered wheelchair that interferes with the mounting system of what we'd, that's not going to get them gaming. So it's not just about the technology; it's a real holistic approach. Um, and so what we'll do is we'll look at the person and try to understand exactly what abilities they have. Now that can
Yep.
vary from somebody who might, well, just not be able to move their thumb a bit, to somebody who is almost completely locked in, who's only just got a bit of eye movement. Um, and then they'll look at what abilities people have got, and they'll mix, match, modify technology, sometimes in complex ways, to provide a gaming setup that works best for them to play the games they want to do. Um, and then we'll lend them the kit to do that. And until they know it's right for them, and then we'll say, well, can we have ours back so we can give it to somebody else? And here's a
Yep.
list of what you need. But it doesn't stop there because games move on, people's abilities change. Um, people might get better, they might get worse. So we're there. It's a lifetime service. So
Mm.
we've been helping people year after year after year, the same people, just to get the most out of their gaming. So, and because that's what it's all about. There's no point doing it if it's not done properly.
Yeah, I mean, this assumption that if you get people playing Tetris, they're really into Tetris. Fantastic. You've given them like whatever console or whatever hardware you need to play Tetris. It's fantastic. But if someone's into, or maybe they no longer like Tetris. Imagine that. Or they want to play something that's more cumbersome in terms of hardware. Then you've got to rethink everything from scratch. The
Yep.
things that you could have previously got away with giving them an apple pie or something, raspberry Pi, sorry, an apple pie. I'm just so hungry right now.
Apple pie on the
But
line.
yeah, that's all I can think of, food. But yeah, just one piece of hardware is never going to be enough for everyone for their entire lifetime. How
No,
do you sort of make the judgment call over what games you are going to allow to be played, or is it sort of an open season? Can people say, I really love I don't know, Fortnite, or I really love, I'm trying to think of games that people are playing. What if someone comes to you and says, I love Team Fortress 2? How would you overcome the restrictions, or the how would you make TF2 accessible?
wow, there's a question, and that again depends entirely on what abilities the person has.
Right.
Because if we're talking about somebody who, for example, is somebody who's come back from a soldier who's come back from a theatre of war who's lost their hand, then we're looking at trying to get the best one-handed solution
Right.
possible for them. And this is a great case in point actually, because we're regularly approached by people who contact us and say, look, I've only got the use of one hand. I've gone out and spent £1,000, $1,000 on a one-handed controller, which I thought would do the job, but it isn't. And
Mm.
can you help me? And we'll say, okay, what do you want to play? What exactly is it
Yeah.
you're doing? And look at the details, and hopefully we'll be able to say, well, in our experience of all the technology that we know about, you might want to try that one. That's going to give you the best chance of doing it. Um, so often, they'll come back and say, "Yes, that's the one. Thank you. I could have spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more."
Yeah.
And
I never got there. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So it's we're there for that, and that's the kind of thing that we can do, which isn't just limited to the UK. Although the actual people we're seeing are within the UK. What we're learning as a team from it, we're sort of making available to the whole world.
Hmm.
anybody can contact us from across the world. We might not be able to see them personally, but
Yep.
we'll be able to hopefully point them in the right direction.
Like I say, surely the number of people you've been able to see personally throughout 2020 has been limited anyway. How are you dealing with the long distance that you're sort of forced to keep?
Do you know what when lockdown came in at the beginning of the year, we were looking at a pretty grim situation, because not only could we not go out and see the people we need to help, all of our fundraising just suddenly dried up. All the events, all the big, we were. But what's happened is that we kind of pivoted it around, and the therapists all do it remotely online now via Zoom calls, and it's working really well. And in fact, we've helped. I was just looking at figures the other day. We've helped just as many people, I think, this year as we had last year, and we saved a lot of diesel petrol costs at the same time and travelling time. Now, obviously, there are going to be some things which we can't pick up on a Zoom call, which so it might take slightly longer to do it, but it's proving to be a really a successful model.
I mean, it's the sort of thing that difficulties to one side when we do finally get out of the situation that this has caused for us, certainly in the UK and likely elsewhere in the world. It gives new arrows to your quiver. It possibly extends the reach that you might be able to have to deliver across the world.
I think it does. I think you're right, and I think there's some people actually feel happier with sort of being on a Zoom call rather than their space being invaded almost. It's so there's
was that a Space Invaders pun dropped in there? That's if it is, that's a good 8 out of 10. That pun, well done.
So I've just ticked that off on my list.
We're still rating the puns. Is that a thing we're still doing?
We are still waiting.
Yeah, what's the pun counter at?
Sorry, that's fine. It really has been interesting, and what we've been doing is, because for the rest of us, for the people who sort of have tell the stories, and people who do all the admin and stuff, none of us have been able to go into the headquarters at all, HQ at all. We've just got one person there who deals with all the kit that's sent out, all the and what happens there is all bits of equipment get totally sanitized. Then they get put aside in quarantine. Then they get sent along with a note to, before you start using this, put it in quarantine, sanitize it again, because we're dealing with some pretty vulnerable people here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much on the edge. It must be very frustrating to know that you, particularly if you're a gamer expecting some kit to arrive, it turns up and they've got to wait 2 weeks sitting, waiting, looking at it, knowing full well that their happiness lies within the confines of that cardboard box.
It's worth the wait all the time, I think. It varies a lot as well. There's a lot of people say, "Oh, do you give sort of consoles out and stuff?" And we're like, "Well, when we can, or where it's suitable, we'll or where it's appropriate, we'll try to, possibly, if we've got one. But we don't actually get consoles thrown at us by people. We have to go down to game stores and scour on Amazon and get them like sort of everybody else, most of them. So we treat them like gold dust as well.
Very nice. One thing I was going to throw in there as well is my first whole experience with SpecialEffect was I think it was I-65 when me and a bunch of my friends, we all went to LAN together. We all played in the tournament together. It was a really, really good time. And my friend Grumpy Koi, who we know and love, member of the community, he was like, "Oh, lucky, have you been to see the SpecialEffect booth yet?" And I was like, "I haven't been just yet, but I'm fairly certain I'm going to pop over there later because I know that the work that they do is pretty good." And when eventually I went over there, maybe a few drinks in, just throwing that in there, we were all a little bit tipsy, but the friendliness of everyone, they hugged me before I even walked across the threshold of the booth. And it just seemed like everyone was so passionate about talking about it. And I got to have a go on a laptop where I literally just used my eyes and the ability to blink to drive a car. And at that moment, I stood up, turned around, opened my wallet, and just turned it upside down and put all my money in the little basket that they had, and they gave me a pin. And I work for the NHS currently, and I wear my pin every day, and I try and tell people about how cool that you guys are. That's a little anecdotal point. But do you your work really translates clearly, because it's so like paternal in the way that you do your care. It's so one-on-one and so beautiful to see, and it translates nicely. So from a working point of view, is it easy to work with the rest of your team? Is it the communication lines all good, everything working solidly, and does the money help out with that as well?
I mean, Dr. Mick is an inspirational CEO to work for, and that's not just because he's my boss. He's one of the great people in the world, and he will do anything for anybody. And it's very easy to work for somebody like that, or very easy to be inspired to work for somebody like that. And he's put this team together very, very carefully with making sure that everybody can give the most to what we're trying to do. And as a result, it's a team that functions so well. And because one of the main reasons is, people like yourselves are raising £5, £10, small amounts of money, and especially in times like this, you couldn't necessarily afford that, but you're giving it anyway. We don't want to waste that. We don't want to waste it in sort of meetings about people having problems with other staff members. We just want to spend it on helping people to play games. Yeah. So no, it's a great place to work. Thanks ever so much, by the way, for wearing your badge. You're a legend at work.
It's all the time. Everyone's like, "Oh, what's that weird?" Because it was a PUBG chicken with a little exclamation mark of the special effect logo on a flag that the chicken's carrying for winner chicken dinner when PUBG was getting pretty big. And everyone's like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's special effect. Oh, you should go check them out. They're really cool. Everything they do is awesome." I got to play on a laptop. I just give them the story, and it just seems so cool. And when I got to watch all the videos and stuff, honestly, I may have cried when I was there at the booth. It was so heartwarming to watch. It was beautiful. Yeah, you guys are awesome. I wouldn't be able to recommend a better charity, honestly. It's some of the best work I've seen.
No, thank you. And I tell you what, and it's not just you actually, because with our therapists are really they're quite humble. They go off and they do their work and they see people and they come back. And we've got this fantastic person at the charity who produces these really nice videos as well of people we help. And we don't know they're coming, in the communications where we work, in the communications fundraising. And all of a sudden they say, oh, we just helped this person the other day. We sit and look there, and I can honestly say, hand on heart, we have tears in our eyes as well. We just can't believe just the impact and the work we're doing is having. And you mentioned the eye controlled. I think it was Dirt 3. You're probably playing possibly that's being transferred into all kinds of aspects of our work. Not only do we use it as sometimes as a component of a gaming setup. We have a guy playing Call of Duty, I think, using his eyes, his voice controls, his shoulders, and a couple of other movements he's got. He has a spinal injury, so it's quite a complex setup. That's transferring through into work that we're able to help more people with. For example, we saw that when Minecraft came out, we thought everybody wants to play Minecraft. There's people who can't do it, so we hired a developer to create a piece of software so that you can play Minecraft just using your eyes. It's called iMine. You can download it for free from the site, from our site, and you just need a low-cost eye tracker to make it work. And just the impact that's had around the globe. We're just we just did a thing, and wow, and it's we're not doing it to make money. We're not doing it to make ourselves look big. We just want to help people, and it's so nice to see. I think within 24 hours of releasing that software, we got this video back from an intensive care unit in Japan of a young boy with an absolute stars in his eyes, huge grin on his face, on a ventilator, playing Minecraft, just using his eyes. It's just fantastic, and that's what it's all about for us.
I did want to ask about this. Oh, sorry, Dave. Please step in.
I was going to tell my own story about communication with y'all. It's been like such a pleasure to see any communication from SpecialEffect. I believe in specific, I get letters and emails from Ali.
Ali,
yeah. They've been on top of communication, and I imagine they are for everybody else too. I imagine you all. That's my question. keep a tab on everybody that you meet, that you work with, your connections, big or small, because even back when we were like a tiny organization doing only a little over £1,000 for charity, the money that we ended up raising, you all still kept a tab on us, sent letters to us. It was very nice, and I was wondering if y'all did the same for anybody else who
Yeah,
helped you out.
thanks for mentioning that, because you're right. Ali's such a lovely lady. We've got in the team that I work in. There's about 5 or 6 of us, and this is what we just want to thank people if they give us money. It's we are genuinely grateful. The last thing we want to do is for people to sort of give us money and we'll go, oh well, it's only £1,000.
It's not enough. You haven't given us enough money. We refuse to service you with any unlicensed.
We don't get out of bed for that. kind of thing. So no, we like it's more of a family kind of thing, because what really resonates is that we go to people and we explain what we do. This is companies. This is expos, and gamers turn around to us and say, "I can't imagine life without games. How can I help?" And that is the resonator for us as well. And so that's what makes it so. It's part of a big family for us. That everybody who donates, everybody who helps out, everybody who sets up events or shouts about us, or wears badges in hospitals. It's really appreciated.
It's just, it's always felt like working with SpecialEffect more than any other charity that we've benefited, that you all really do care personally about every case you take on, and it's been very heartwarming to me. Yeah,
Less of a business, more a bunch of friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And what when we have people like yourselves, who will regularly raise money, and we do recognize your names. It's really great. It's fantastic. And just to have that continuing support, you really don't know how much that means to us. You really do not know how. We're not a sort of charity that's going to be going to sort of big industrial grant making organizations and be getting a fair hearing. Well, not a fair hearing, but there's going to be a lot of other sort of maybe causes that might sort of resonate more with them. But and they might say, well, video games, maybe that's a bit further down the list. Maybe we'll support that in 10 years or so. So to have your support is what makes us tick, and to be honest, what keeps the doors open.
Excellent. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, the one button jam.
The one button jam. I'm sorry, I'm searching my memory for this. Oh, okay, right. I'm going to see if I can bluff my way through this.
Do it. One button game jam.
I think it is. It's basically a game jam so people can make games which are playable just using one button, because you'd be amazed the amount of people we see, especially young children with maybe severe or quite extensive cerebral palsy. That's all they can do. They can just hit one button. There's a lovely video of our site. I think it came out last year of a father got in touch with us because we'd helped his son who had really sort of gross motor movements just to press a button to play Forza. When he pressed that button, the car went, and because of the accessibility features of Forza, it went the right way and it didn't come off the track. And
Right.
just to see the look on that lad's face, the dad said, I can finally play with my son. And so one button stuff is incredibly important. When our therapists go out, I've talked to them about it. I said, what do you look for? What is the minimum amount of control you need to use a game? And they say, well, one button, because but really we look for, first thing we try and look for is a controllable way of using a joystick, because if you can do that opens up quite a lot. If you can then try and find a way of controlling a button as well, a switch, whether that be a miniature switch will run out from an adapter, like a Xbox adapter controller put under a finger. Yeah, some of these people that we're seeing with spinal muscular atrophy, something, their fingers and movements are so weak. We're talking absolute millimeters of movement here. Sliding a button under a fingertip and moving it just to the right position makes all the difference. So that's why it has to be, absolute custom setup.
Doesn't even, like, I struggle so much to fathom a scenario where that like moving a finger in the general direction of rightness is an accomplishment. It seems an utterly alien world to me, but I guess for some people, for a lot of people, for those people you see with this and help out with special effect, that's got to be a reality, a daunting reality for them.
It is, and it's especially if you're going through the stages of muscular dystrophy, your hands and your fingers do get weak, and you can perhaps, for example, use a controller, a gaming controller, but you don't have the strength in your fingers to make the buttons and joysticks move. So a common thing that we do is take apart a controller and put lighter springs in the joysticks so that you can move it a lot more easily. It's just little things like that, sort of building up buttons with sort of extra layers on top so that it actually matches what people can actually reach rather than letting them stretch. So
I do want to talk about this more. I just want to quickly shout out to our chat. We've managed to reach our £6,000 super stretch goal.
Ooh, okay.
It's super awesome. It means we get a chance to play one of the most memest maps that's ever existed, Wiethoofd. So that is an excellent achievement by our chat and everyone who's donated so far. I'm hoping they get a chance to read some donations soon, but thank you very much, chat. 6K, it's a big number.
I believe if we're still looking at numbers and places on Tiltify, we're second for teams, like second most raised. About 100,000 pounds behind Yogg's cast, but we'll get there,
Yeah, dude, everything's a game. So, hardware. I know that on videos that I've seen, there's an Xbox. Is it like an Xbox One controller? It's a big white one with. Is that a Nintendo thing? How much specialist hardware do you get to play with, and how much of the stuff that you do is, as you say, you're taking springs out and swapping it around?
I think the one you might be referring to is an Xbox adapter controller. It's the thing that it's the interface that Microsoft came out with a couple of years ago, which allows a lot of accessibility switches to be plugged into the back, and a lot of different ways for people with physical disabilities to, potentially access games. We were honoured enough to have a lot of input into the design and testing of that, along with several other organisations, and actually that's one of the ways. I mean, I know there's a lot of people say to us, look, you were only helping people in the UK directly, and we're saying, well, actually no, because we invite game developers to come to us and say, look, well, can you help us make our game a bit more accessible? Through that, we've helped Double Fine with Forza, we've helped Rare with Sea of Thieves, we've helped EA with FIFA and Playground with Day of the Tentacle. There's just four. We've got loads of others that we're under NDAs we can't talk about. But and through us helping the developers, that's the effect. That's how we're making it easier for the world to be more accessible. But in terms of the hardware itself, yes, the XSE has been a bit of a game changer for us. That interface you were talking about, because it does provide a lot of. It's a first party thing, so it does provide a lot of options which are are slightly more reliable than maybe some of the stuff we had before. What our therapists will tend to do all the time is try and find an off the shelf solution. And the reason they try to do that, or put together a system with off the shelf solution components, because if something breaks, it's a lot easier to replace. So we'd rather do that than modify something. But a lot of the time it's unavoidable.
One thing I was going to ask as well, is there a particular, if you want to talk about it, of course, it's up to you, but is there a particular case where you've a hard case that you've had where it's been like, oh, I don't really know what I'm going to do, but you've overcome the odds and it's sort of really improved quality of life for somebody?
Do you know what? I wish I had one of our therapists here, because they probably go, "Oh yeah, I remember this and that." Well, because and they a lot of the time, you, for example, when they're going out to help people, the sort of environments they're going into are really pretty challenging. I mean, these are families often who, are living in challenging circumstances with challenging finances in challenging areas, and already they're 3-0 down.
Yeah, it's really hard.
And in cramped spaces, in dark bedrooms and dark living rooms with lots of other competing, issues going on, maybe with lots of dogs barking and stuff. So, in fact, we did set up a guy with, I think it's probably seen it on our website. He plays World of Warcraft with 3 chin joysticks now, because he's got a lot of movement in his head. He used to use voice control, but the family got a new dog who wouldn't stop barking, so he got back in touch.
Oh no!
And said, "Look, guys, I can't use voice controls anymore. Can you help?" So he said, "All right, okay, we'll come back out." We set him up with a different way of doing it. So that's the kind of thing that you can't possibly foresee.
Yeah,
Genuinely can't, and that's brilliant as well. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, there is no alternative. Wow. So, like, the stuff you mentioned, working on or with a few games companies, in terms of helping them to understand the restrictions and the limitations that perhaps they will be unaware of. How does that come about? Do you reach out to all developers first, or do they reach out to you? Like, what is the process for that?
What we don't do, is hit them over the head with a big accessibility stick and say, "You must make your game accessible." That's not. It's not going to work. It's not what we're about.
Mm.
What we do is just we try to inspire developers with stories of people that we've helped a game, and try to show through that actually by making their own game more accessible, they'll probably sell more copies for a start. And so and through that there's a trickle down process. And at the beginning it was, there was just 1 or 2 developers who showed an interest. And now there's a few more. But I remember being at one particular big developer who just done a fundraising event for us.
Yep.
And they said, "Oh, well, come along and tell us what you're spending the money on." So I went along with one of my colleagues, and I was showing case studies. I was saying, "Oh, we helped such and such, such and such." And my colleague, who was one of the technicians, and said, "Oh yes, well also within this particular game, we got a developer to remap one of the rotary menu controls so that somebody could use it." And then a day later, we got an email from one of the developers off that company saying, "I listened to your talk and I suddenly thought, hang on, I could do that in our game."
Yeah.
So we weren't actually telling them to do it, but and you can see the very fact that they've got accessibility awards in the accessibility section in the Game Awards last week.
Yep.
Shows that it's the super tanker really is turning.
Good way of phrasing it. That's got to be a rewarding feeling, though, knowing that you've inspired a developer to make a change to their game just by your mere presence.
It's a constant moving forward process. I mean, it's lovely. It's lovely to think that maybe we might have been a part of that, because it's never purely us. There are all sorts of factors involved, but we're always looking forward to the next thing or the next way we can help. For example, next week we've got we're launching a website called iGaze Games, where it's just some fairly simple games which you can play, browser-based games, which are multiplayer, which people who've only got you can use their eyes can play wherever they are in the world. So you can get somebody on a bus in Brixton playing and somebody in an intensive care unit in Bangalore. It's playing the same game competitively, and that we've got 6 games coming out there. Sorry, this is the ad.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
And we're hoping to build on that. And again, there's our R&D people tell me that apparently they've got other sort of twinkles in their eyes as well. But I wait to see.
Apologies, I was just saying before like it's like positive reinforcement. They show more avenues for accessibility. You show them more success stories, and that sort of good feeling, good faith tradition leads them forward, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and we back that up. For example, we've got another site called GameAccess.info, which all the technical stuff that we learn we put on there for developers to look at. So it's and in fact we'll also be launching a dev kit as well. With some accessibility information as well, so that's coming up. But the Game Access Info it contains all kinds of tutorials like how to use Microsoft Xbox Accessibility Controller with a Nintendo Switch. Which is things that people didn't necessarily think could work, but we're going, oh yeah, you could do it if you add this bit and that bit. So what we're learning in the field, all the little tricks and tips, we're throwing into those videos and making them accessible to developers and people in their garages who want to try and build stuff for their friends.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm glad that you're not just like gearing videos towards or gearing contents towards one particular like market sector. It's not just about like getting businesses to do things. It's effectively allowing everything that you learn and will learn to be public domain, allowing anyone to use the information.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and it's one of the reasons why we can't we're totally funded by charitable donations. If we start sort of being funded in other ways, we might find our hands being tied. So the way we work and the way we're funded give us a freedom to do that, which is absolutely important. Our mission is to help as many people in the world with disabilities to game to the best of their abilities, and these are the ways. These are the only ways that we can see of doing it, of helping people in the field, and then translating what we learn through to stuff that we can sort of help other people make their products, and then sort of our own products, which we can freely distribute.
This is a bit left of field. I know it's on none of the questions we told you we might ask. But I've just started getting interested in virtual reality. Is there any role for VR within the work that you do?
That's a great question. I should chat with the R&D guys, so they've gone very quiet on that. We did a few years ago. We were working on building eye gaze within VR headsets for a while, but I have to be absolutely honest, and I'm not sure what the latest is on that. I'm sure if I approach them, they'll probably give me a sort of a low chuckle and a sideways glance.
Not even certain what that means, but yeah, sure. You've mentioned getting in developers to do some work for you. You've mentioned having engineers. Do you have people on staff doing work for you? Are you constantly investigating every controller that ever comes along to see how it can be utilized or reutilized?
I mean, our modus operandi is the fact that we try to help people where they want to be helped. So if people are playing a particular game and they're on a particular platform, that's what we'll concentrate on. So it's very much user-led, if I can use the phrase. But we used to do a lot more sort of technical modding and hacking in the old days, sort of 5-6 years ago, when things were a bit simpler with the controllers and taking things apart and getting the soldering iron out.
There were only 2 controllers.
Yeah. and now it's a bit more. We try to be a bit more smarter because there are more products on the market, and in a way, that's one of the challenges. If a family has got somebody who's suddenly made disabled, all of a sudden they're faced with a situation they know nothing about accessible gaming. Where do you go? Where do you go to start? Because you type in accessible gaming products on a in Google, and you get thrown in 1,000 different directions. And what we're saying is, look, tell us what you need, what you want, and we'll help you in the best way we can.
I've got to ask, are you a gamer, Mark?
Me? Well, to be honest, no, I never got a chance to be a gamer. I've got 2 teenage daughters who tend to monopolize things. But no, I was born in the Star Wars